Welcome on in. Thank you so much for being here and being present. This is our midweek connection. And of course, as always, we are looking at Tao Te Ching. Yes, we are. Tao Te Ching means the virtue of the way in Chinese. And this just helps us to live our lives. It's a deep, wonderful, wise book that was written about 565 BC, so around 600 years, close to 600 years before Jesus. And there's just wonderful wisdom in it. And I think that I love to glean the wisdom from it. And sometimes I feel like I'm sitting with Lao Tzu himself as some of these opportunities come about. I will tell you that the opportunities that come about give us a wonderful way to actually utilize the Tao in real time. And I can tell you it works. It really does work. I've had to use these principles more than one time, and I'm thankful for the use of them. Take a moment, if you would, and just allow yourself to relax in this space. We open up our hearts and we open up our mind to receive wisdom. And we know ultimately that wisdom doesn't come in words. Wisdom comes from experiencing pure consciousness and learning to see the world through pure consciousness. So we bring our awareness into alignment. We surrender our self and soul to the pure presence, to consciousness itself. And we say, Spirit of Truth, lead us wherever you want to lead us. Take from us whatever you don't want us to have or that we don't need. And we know you bring to us what we do need. For that we say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And so it is, so it is. What a great week of meditation again. It definitely, there's an ebb and flow right now. There's a flowing and a going with the flow that's beyond explaining. I've personally experienced a shift within my soul and myself, and I'm thankful. I'm just at a thankful place in my life. Hopefully you are too. All right, let's look at Tao Te Ching, verse 68. And I have a couple different translations that I'm going to read, and then just some things I'd like to declare to us this evening. I'm not going to hold you for long. I don't want to keep you held up from anything that you have going on during your week. But maybe this is just sort of there's a lot of talk about booster shots. Maybe this is just sort of a booster in the middle of the week. Hump day, a little push to get over it. I'm just trying to help you over the hump. Verse 68. The best athlete wants his opponent at his best. The best general enters the mind of his enemy. The best businessman serves the communal good. The best leader follows the will of the people. All of them embody the virtue of non-competition. Not that they don't love to compete, but they do it in the spirit of play. In this, they are like children, and then in harmony with the Tao. Now, if you look toward the back of the book, if you have a Stephen Mitchell translation, you'll see that he says, I have improvised here. Because he said the text reads, a skillful officer isn't warlike. A skillful fighter isn't violent. A skillful conqueror isn't competitive. A skillful employer places himself below others. This is called the T of not competing, or the way of not competing. This is called the power to use men's abilities, and this is called complying with heaven. Since ancient times, it has been the best way. Now, when we read all of this, one of the things that stuck out to me in this one was the skillful officer isn't warlike. Let me speak to something for just a moment, and hopefully you will not hear politics, you'll hear philosophy of life. Although the words defund the police that was taking place back in the summer of 2020, although those words were utilized by the media and by a lot of people to explain where many people were coming from, it was misunderstood by many. I think more than anything else, the idea is to demilitarize the police. That the police force would be a peace officer force rather than warlike. There's a lot of warlike activity that takes place. This is one of the reasons that when people hear about social workers being hired in police departments, a lot of people don't realize that that actually takes a load off of police officers. For people who are skillfully trained in understanding psychology and human behavior to be a part of the process, rather than every single police officer having to act in a way that is violent. So that's all I'm going to say about that, is that we need to find a new way to do it. When there's an eruption, we need to find I go back to tension. Tension invites our what? Our attention, so that we can set a new attention. Something from the universe is inviting us to take a look. And so instead of taking sides, what a novel idea to lose the sense of competition and get into a sense of cooperation. In fact, if I was going to title this evening's chat, I would call it Moving from Competition to Cooperation. Moving from competition to cooperation. Because when we compete, it's almost endless, and it strokes the ego, and it creates this sense of us and them. And so instead of us trying to solve problems in the world with the same consciousness that created a problem, let's shift in consciousness. Let's look at it from a different standpoint, from a different point of view. Many can't do that because the ego is so engaged. And this is why studies like this are important. This is why meditation's important. This is why, why our main thrust and our main focus is love, because love invites us to the table along with everyone else. I think this is part of what's meant in the scripture where it says, He prepares a table before me in the presence of my enemies. The idea is that you can even be on a battlefield and have a sense of peace to overshadow the whole situation. And why not? When we're working in competition, we're pushing against the life flow. But when we're working in cooperation with each other, see, out of cooperation comes a co-op and a corporation, an organization, bringing about a healthy organism so that we can organize ourselves together in the sense of oneness to actually be creative rather than destructive. What a novel idea, right? We have the ability to. Are we willing to exercise putting our ego aside in order to do it? Here's another translation of this Tao verse. Excellent warriors are not violent. Excellent soldiers are not furious. Excellent conquerors do not engage. Excellent leaders of people lower themselves or live in a space of humility. This is called the virtue of no strife. This is called the use of people's capacity. This is called union with heaven. Now, hang on that one right now because I'm going to come back to that. This is called union with heaven. It is the perfection of the ancients. In other words, it's the oldest thing that we can point to as a philosophy or way of doing life. Okay. So let's go through this just kind of line upon line, and then I have a couple of things I'd like for us to carry away this evening. 1, excellent warriors are not violent, which sounds absolutely dichotomous. It sounds completely flipped on its head, because you would think that the best warriors would be the most violent ones. But here's the deal. Violence, more often than not, comes from a place of fear. When you're in fight, flight, or faint, and you may as well say fear is the sort of the overarching theme of fight, flight, and faint. When you're in that state, it is a scientific neurological fact that your brain has less ability to calculate the outcomes and to calculate the clarity to gain insight during those moments. So the truth is that an excellent warrior is not one who is violent, but one who is strategic. And you can't be strategic and violent all at once, or be a violent person. Excellent soldiers are not furious. How many of you have ever seen somebody flying off the handle furious? I think there's a word for that. They are acting crazy, right? If you've seen someone flying off the handle furious, you would be able to easily say that person is acting crazy, because they are. They've restricted their blood flow to the brain. They've caused their heart rate to increase. They've caused all of the blood now to move to the extremities, because when you're in fight, flight, or faint mode, the blood is not staying in the places that need to be nurtured. It's staying in the places that are going to give you the ability to either fight or run. And so the blood flows to the extremities, getting you ready to either have to guard, throw a punch, stab at, or run. It means you're in fight mode. And an excellent soldier is not furious. They're able to hold their peace. It's one of the reasons the martial arts became a thing, was so that there could be disciplines and habits taught. The main disciplines and habits actually taught in any martial art that's of value is the art of being able to hold on to your peace, to be able to hold on to your emotions, to be able to manage the emotions instead of being managed by them. One who is furious is one who is being used by their emotions rather than the converse. So, what does this have to do with everyday life? Well, we all have opposing views with someone in our life. There's somebody that you don't agree with all the time. And so what is practical and wisdom about this? Well, I'll ask us, there's two things I'd like to ask. Declare, make a declaration in your life that you're not going to fight. In fact, say it real quick, I'm not going to fight. In fact, I'll go even a step further, and y'all know because I'm pretty wild. Don't even fight colds or illness or even serious diseases. Don't fight with your family members or political opponents. Don't fight addictions. And most importantly, don't fight yourself. Many of us we're not in cooperation with our own self. We're in competition with our own self. Don't fight against yourself, and don't fight against others. Don't fight against colds. What's the point? Well, what am I supposed to do? Just let it take over, die? When's the last time you had a cold that didn't play out eventually? It's going to come, it's going to visit you anyway. It's a proven fact in medicine that most cold medicine only relieves the symptoms just a little bit anyway. Basically it's the cutting the check engine light. It's not fixing the transmission, it's cutting the check engine light. I'm not saying that you shouldn't take medications for the symptoms, don't get me wrong, but don't be in a fight with it. I'll hear people say, I'm fighting a cold. Well, you may as well not fight it. It's going to stay until it leaves. It sounds a little, I promise you, I know that this sounds a little paradoxical to what we're used to. But don't fight diseases. Don't fight illnesses. Don't fight addictions. When you fight an addiction, you give it more strength. You give to it your energy when you fight it. Don't fight it. Well, what should I do? Surrender to it? Surrender to the essence that you are, knowing that the essence that you are can't be addicted to anything because it's not attached to anything, because it's not a thing. It may be the vehicle, the body that you're running around this planet with that's addicted. Surrender to the now moment and to the realization that I am eternal, having a temporary human craving or experience. The magic, though, is in letting go and being at peace with what the body is dealing with. So, I wrote this down. Sign a no-compete clause with your own self and soul. Do you know that most body image issues that people have come from an image that people have built up within their own minds, and in some way you're competing with yourself? Let me let you in on something. If you're competing with your own self, then you lose, no matter who wins. Let me run that by you again. When you're competing with yourself, then you lose no matter who wins, because you're competing with your own self. And a house divided will what? Fall. But when you cooperate, you create the opportunity to incorporate unity into the life that you're living. Now you build a corporation around unity, which organizes this organism to work together in unity to create the life you really want. But it's only going to happen through cooperation. It will not happen through competition. So sign a no-compete clause with your own self. Instead, make a shift to living in cooperation with life. This is how you live the Tao. I told you I was going to come back to the verse there that mentions heaven. This is called complying with heaven, or living consciously. That's what really complying with heaven is about, living consciously. The complying with heaven is being in cooperation with life. Let me say this, and I wrote this down. If you insist, back up, slow down. If you have disease in your body, talk to those disease cells from the perspective of, if you insist on living in this body, I want to live in peace, harmony, and total health with you. If that's not going to work for you, then I invite you to live somewhere else. Now, I know this sounds a little strange, because most of us want to fight like hell if we get cancer. Most of us want to fight like hell if we get, diabetes, or even get a cold, serious illness of any sort. We want to fight like hell. But what if the magic is in speaking to those cells and saying to those cells, hey, look, apparently you've decided to take up residence within my vehicle, this body. If this is the way it's going to be, let me tell you how I manage this temple. In this space, we live in peace, harmony, and total health. If that's not going to work for you, then I invite you to take up residence somewhere else. I invite you to live somewhere else instead of fighting against it. What about the Bible says? Fight the good fight of faith. Run the race. Why would we fight the good fight of faith? It is what it is. The truth is the truth. The magic is in surrender. So I don't have to fight for my faith. I surrender to the higher consciousness that I am. That's the Christ heart and the Buddha mind. It's the power, that's really the power that Jesus operated in and invited us all into. This is good news, that you can move from a state of competition into a state of cooperation. Number 2, practice seeing yourself and everyone else. I go over this a lot. Tao has become a big part of my life. And I realize that a lot of life is chaotic and crazy, and where there's one sense of death, it really is often just another way for molecules and atoms to sort of metamorphosize. It's just a reuse of the molecules and the atoms that are there. So essentially, it's not as much death as it is a shifting to a new way of life. Because there's all kinds of life happening all at once in our lives, and many of us just don't even recognize it. Practice seeing yourself in everyone else. This helps you to understand and to practice the realization that when I harm another, I harm myself. So the competition becomes, as it says in this verse, it's not that they don't love to compete. Because I know there's some people watching this right now who are like, whoa, I love to compete. I don't want to live completely in a sense where I can't compete anymore. I like to go play basketball and beat my friends. I like to play video games and beat my friends. I like competition. Well, that's fine, but notice it says not that they don't love to compete, but they do it in the spirit of play. It even goes further back and says the best athlete wants his or her opponent at their best. The best athletes are the ones who want to be challenged by their opponents, who want that iron to sharpen iron, even if sparks aren't going to fly. I want the iron to sharpen iron so that I can become the best version of me. I realize that the challenges I face in this life are here to teach me and to help me move toward a better version of myself. And so I welcome that kind of competition, but I welcome it with a sense of play rather than a sense of violence and fury. I can do that through practicing seeing myself in everyone else. That I am you and you are me and we are all connected and we're all family. I should have done it that way because that has more rhyme. I am you, you are me, we are all family. We are. We're all connected. Whether you like it or not, we are all connected. And so if we're going to be connected, and we're going to be connected with people who have different views than we do, why not spend our life in a sense of cooperation rather than competition? We can do it. I challenge you to do it. So, number one, declare that you're not going to fight. And that includes fighting with illnesses, diseases, addictions, with family, political opponents. Sign a no-compete clause with your own self. For God's sakes, don't fight with your own selves. Don't compete with your own selves. Cooperate with your own self. And number two, practice seeing yourself in everyone else. Actually practice it. Pema Chodron has something that she does that she does this, she said, in traffic. It really is a beautiful practice. When you're seeing people angry, you see traffic is stopped, and everybody's got somewhere to go. And wherever they're going to go and wherever you're going to go is the most important. It's always an emergency. She practices this in traffic. She'll look at someone and she'll notice the grimaces on their face. Maybe they're angry and upset, screaming and hollering, and she'll say, just like me, just like me. Or that person that flips you off in traffic or cuts you off. After you get through with your 4-letter words, say, just like me, truly, just like me. This person has somewhere to go to. This person needs to get there, at least in their mind, they think they do, just like me. We're alike, just like me. Excellent warriors are not violent. Excellent soldiers are not furious. Excellent conquerors do not engage. Excellent leaders of people lower themselves or humble themselves. This is called the virtue of no strife, no competition. This is called the use of people's capacity. This is called the union with heaven. It is the perfection of the Ancient of Days. Spirit of truth, guide us. Give us the ability to stop fighting and to practice seeing ourselves and everyone else we come in contact with. Guide and direct our lives is my prayer. In the name and the nature of the indwelling Christ. And so it is. So it is. Make sure that you are around to join us again tomorrow for our meditation. The meditation will be the same time, same channel, 6:30 a.m. tomorrow, Facebook and YouTube. And as always, make sure you share this with people in your life. I want to say a special thank you to everyone who continues to give. Your giving is important to this community, and I am so very thankful that you choose to give to this community. All right, I think that is it. I think that's all we've got for this evening. I love you. Go in peace and make it a great rest of the evening. I will see you tomorrow morning. Peace.